Hello. So in this particular video, I was originally going to try to kind of make it like a continuation of last semester and the issues we were having there, but those things that had to work on last semester weren't so much issues this semester. A lot of what we kind of had to deal with was figuring out like what kind of tack made her the most comfortable, um, what and things along those lines. Whereas like last semester, it was working on making her like more consistent and more normal, more or less. So. A lot of what I end up talking about in this video is just like the way that she's moving, um, how you can obviously see if she's like really tight or where she's not or where she's better or worse. So that's a lot of what I kind of talk about in this video and before and after a chiropractor appointment and stuff like that. So yeah. Uh, so getting into the actual content of the video, I feel like this one's pretty early in the semester. Lunging, this is all pre-chiropractor up until this point. Um, I feel like in this direction, this is before she's cantered. She's just like, it's not a bad trot, but it's like a little tight, and you can just kind of see that she's not like fully comfortable. This is the point in the semester where she would just like randomly be kind of lame for no real reason. You can see she's kind of weak because it took her a minute to pick up her canter, which gets way better throughout the semester. She had a really hard time holding it also, and that canter just looked like it looked tight, looked a little awkward. Her trot usually gets better at the end. This one is also very tight. Um, it's just not like fluid and flowing the way that like I know that it can be. It just looks really tight. And then again, the trot is a little bit of a better quality after the canter. But she did have a lot of trouble like holding the canter, especially on this lead. Um, yeah, there was a lot of it's tight. It's not super comfortable looking for her. Um, and again, the trot gets a little better. It's a little more bouncy, and then that weird stopping problem, which is something that I feel like will always just need to be like reinforced to her. And again, it's just not super. Again, here too, it's not super like nice, comfortable. It's really tight. Here we were working on trying to get her to like accept the contact with the bit a little bit better, which is why we were in the round pen, just because there was a lot less distractions going on. So, but yeah, it just looks kind of tight. It's not super comfortable. It's better in the round pen than it typically would be other places. You can see she like kind of does it, and then she just doesn't really ever want to hold it. Her canter transition looked pretty nice though there. And this canter actually like looks pretty good. It's pretty like nice rhythm in the gait. Like sometimes she gets a little pacey. But again, she just has trouble holding it. And then after the quality of the trot gets a little bit better, which was pretty typical in the beginning of the semester. It would get kind of bad at first, and then it got better after she'd canter. And again, she just like doesn't necessarily know super well how to accept the contact. I feel like in this video you can really kind of start to see more of her like being inconsistent in the trot. Um, and then in the canter you can see that it's just like tight. Um, so this is like, I believe this is still like the original tack setup that we had been working with. Which like this is actually a pretty nice canter. It has a pretty good rhythm and it's pretty like controlled for her. Sometimes she can get a little runny, but this one is honestly not too bad. Um, and this is like the first instance where I'd really noticed her trying to like stretch down right here in the canter, and I'm not gonna lie, I probably thought she was gonna try to buck again, but she did not. She was just asking to stretch a little bit, which was nice. Um, and then again, the trot's a little better after the canter. It's more relaxed in general. I feel like that's typically how it works out. It's a little bit up-headed and a little bit inconsistent, but not as bad as before. And again, like, this one's after cantering once, so it's not as bad. But that transition, again, it looked pretty nice. This direction, it looks a little bit more pacey, and I felt like this was the direction where her canter, like, felt weirder pre-chiropractor. And, like, I feel like you can see it pretty well, in this video. So, like, it's just really pacey. Like, the rhythm isn't really there. She likes to try to walk into the grass. It's fun. And then again, the trot's a little better. She's a little bit more willing to accept the contact, but not fully still here. And then I feel like in this next clip of us cantering is where you can really see, like, if you watch my body, how it, like, just looks uncomfortable. Like in this clip, there's, like, a weird motion that I was feeling while I was riding that just didn't quite feel right. But like she was still able to like steer normally like we'd worked on last semester, and it wasn't like she wasn't overall bad. It was just not comfortable most of the time while we were riding. And then in this clip, this one is where you like really, really see that she's not like comfortable. She's like making herself unsound. Um, in these trotting clips. She's doing a lot better with the contact in those videos though, which like was what I was working on to try to get her to be more sound, was actually like move up into the contact so that it would maybe get better, which like it kind of looks in this one like she's almost tracking less with the left, which is kind of abnormal for her. But yeah, I feel like you can really see the like inconsistencies like just in the gait itself in these videos, which was pretty typical of her before being able to see the chiropractor. So that was not super fortunate, but it kind of gave evidence of something not being right in her like back or hips or something. Um, so yeah, while not great, it was useful for something. This is, so the first time I rode her after the chiropractor, because I didn't really want to do a whole lot for a minute, and just give her some time to rest. So we were just doing some, like, leg yields to try to get her, like, to see how she felt and some, like, see some, like, just some lateral work to gauge where she was at and, like, how she was feeling after having been seen by the chiropractor, which she kind of leads with her shoulder a little bit more, but we hadn't really worked on leg yields a whole lot up until this point, so I'm not super worried about it at that point. It was just kind of playing around. So this is the first clip I have of me riding after her seeing the chiropractor, and even over in this outdoor, I mean, I feel like you can just tell that she looks more comfortable. This is after she'd already cantered and stuff, so she's a little bit more uptight than she would have been at first, which those clips are a little bit later. But still, she's a lot more like consistently sound than she had been in the last couple of clips that we saw in this particular outdoor, which I typically feel like she's best in the round ring. She's like second best in the big outdoor, and then she's kind of worst in the indoor just because I feel like she doesn't feel like she has enough space to balance. But again, she looks way more comfortable, way more sound than she had before. And this is where we had switched up the like saddle situation. And now she is like asking to stretch. She really wanted to stretch this day. Like it was super consistent, and you can see like she's like tracking up way nicer than she had been before, and it just looks more comfortable. This canter, like, again, the quality is like, it's okay. It's not great. It's still a little pacey, but it may be a little bit less than before, but she like looks more comfortable. She wants to stretch while she's doing it. And again, same thing on this lead. This lead has a little bit better of the gait is a little bit better. And again, she's stretching, so it's a little bit nicer to ride. But yeah. And again, indoor, she's not great in the indoor. She doesn't necessarily look tense, she just looks like uncomfortable. And I know she doesn't like the footing in there, so that was kind of why. And we hadn't really had to ride in there yet for a while. And again, it's just like pacey canter. It goes fine. It's just pacey, and she doesn't look as comfortable in the gait as like I know she can look. She was stretching a little bit, but not a ton in that indoor. Yeah. So again, not uncomfortable, like not uncomfortable, just like tense in her gaits. This is the first time I rode her in the like hackamore situation where we just took the bit off of the bridle she normally goes in, and I feel like you can see like already like the gait is way nicer. Like the quality of the canter is way nicer. It's like a real 3-beat situation instead of that weird pacey thing. And then just like super comfy in the trot, like it was a real trot, not her weird one that she can do sometimes, and just going around on the loose rein. She was a lot happier in that situation than she had been with the bit, and that was nice to see. It was just a struggle to turn right that day. So after that, I started doing like carrot stretches more intensely and stuff like that, so that to try to help get her loosened up on that right side. And I also started lunging her more consistently in the side reins, and making her work a couple days a week doing that. And that was kind of the only thing that she would do. So you can see even just her head's still a little high in these clips. This is the first time. So she's not like fully strong enough yet. And I believe this was either the next day or like 2 days later. And you can see that she still kind of struggles like a little bit to keep her head down, but she is like more actively trying to put her head like where it should be. You can see that her gait looks a lot nicer than it had before too, when her head is down. But yeah, like she's just building the strength over the top line to be able to stretch down like that. And then you can see again, like just further on in the day, she was being able to hold it a little bit more consistently. I believe I let the side reins out a little bit more so she could stretch down a little bit, and it was working, and she was getting so much stronger. And then the next time, again, you can see she's still kind of weak, so she can't necessarily hold it all for that long, but she's stretching down a lot more, and she's like more able to hold herself up in that position. So this was the time, I believe it was the second time I rode her in the flower, but it was after, but yeah. So this was kind of what we found by the end to be the most like effective situation. She was just like overall really calm, like her gaits look better than they had. She gets pacey on that wall, and she has that steering issue on that wall kind of all the time, but you just kind of have to be ready for. But like that's a really much nicer quality trot than we were seeing like before in the indoor. And she was like pretty easy to work with that day. It wasn't like painful to try to get her to go around in that arena. She didn't look uncomfortable. She didn't feel uncomfortable. She felt pretty normal. She was like able to go over the poles normally without hitting them and stuff. But yeah, and I wasn't necessarily asking her to put her nose in just because she felt comfortable the way that she decided she wanted to go around. But yeah, and then yeah, the trot just looks so much nicer. She felt really nice that day. And then her canter transitions were both pretty good. That one was pretty good. And then like the quality of that canter looks a lot nicer there. And then I kind of had to whip her around the corner from steering, and then it got kind of worse. And I always feel like it's like a nicer 3-beat situation in the corners, and then she comes down the long side and it gets pacey like it does right here, and it's kind of gross again. And then she can kind of get it back in the corners. So here's just lunging again, but you can see that her, like, the quality of that canter was like way nicer, and she couldn't really hold her head like up or down so much in the canter, and she kind of struggled with that transition, but that's just because she's not quite strong enough yet to be able to hold it. And then you can see as she goes along, she gets kind of lower. So in answering these questions, I felt like the biggest success was honestly just finding something that she, like, a setup that was the most comfortable for her and that she, like, had the least amount of issues with. I feel like that was honestly the biggest success because that was kind of what we were struggling with for most of the semester. So being able to do that, at least by the end, was nice. If I had more time, I would spend so much more time lunging her and just making her stronger over her back so that she's like in less pain over time. And just being able to find ways to help her help herself so that she's not uncomfortable and she can go nicer in like places with worse footing and stuff like that. So yeah, then, I mean, what we didn't anticipate was the fact that she was in so much more pain than we thought she was, which we saw with the chiropractor, where her withers were really, really bad. So that wasn't necessarily something we anticipated, but it was something that, like, we knew was going to be an issue, and we wanted to get taken care of. I mean, something just to carry forward is that, like, there can always be internal issues that you aren't addressing. That's something that you should be addressing. So making sure that you're like able to check boxes off to make sure that like if there's a problem, you're trying to find the most effective way to solve it no matter what. I feel like it's something that's nice to take away from this process. But yeah, that's all the work that we did this semester to make her at least comfortable by the end.